Today's episode of Beyond the Mask is presented by the insurance specialists at Bright Think Wealth Strategies. Find the disability insurance coverage that fits you best right now. Email Robert Smith at rsmithjr@financialguide.com. The show is also made possible by the team at CRNA Financial Planning. Get a free consultation today to be guided through the complexities of investing and financial planning. Just visit crnafinancialplanning.com. We'd also like to thank Helping Hands and OSA EMR for their support of the show. And don't forget, listening to our podcast can earn you Class B credits. For more information on how you can submit them, check out the CE Credit tab on our website, beyondthemaskpodcast.com. Welcome to Beyond the Mask, Innovation and Opportunities for CRNAs with Jeremy Stanley and Sharon Pierce. We know you spend your day caring for your patient's best interests. On our show, we want to care for you. Join us as we leave the operating room and learn the latest in the CRNA industry. Beyond the Mask starts in 10, 9, 8, 7.
Welcome to Beyond the Mask. I'm Jeremy Stanley, and I've been working with CRNAs for over 23 years, and I'm married to one. And my co-host is
Sharon Pierce.
Sharon's a practicing CRNA for over 20 years, a past president of the AANA, the NCANA, and she's held many other leadership roles. As usual, our goal with every episode is to educate and enlighten CRNAs, and I think our topic today is definitely going to do that. And Sharon, what time is it?
It's time to wake up, Jeremy.
I think it is. Well, hello, Miss Sharon Pierce. How are you today?
I'm good because I'm in the studio with you, Jeremy.
That's right. We're back together in the studio. It is so nice to be in here and actually get the full effect. And it's not over Zoom.
I know.
You know?
I know.
Nice.
And, one of our reviews did say they enjoyed the podcast, but sometimes the audio was metal-like. But they understood because, we're doing stuff remotely.
Interesting. Yeah. Such is the new world that we live in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, I think we got another great topic and something for our listeners to kind of sink their teeth into today.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. We've been trying to get this one done, and I had to reach out to John Lawrence to get our guest's phone number. So what did you think whenever I texted you? Did you know? You didn't know who I was. You're like,
I had no idea who you were.
Yeah, who is this woman, and why?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
Why is she texting me?
I liked your response. You got my number on the bathroom wall.
I did say that. He goes,
gosh.
Who is this, and why are you texting me, and where'd you get my number? And he was perfect. I said, I found it on the bathroom wall.
Oh gosh. And he still is on the podcast.
Yeah,
That's great.
I know. He was so
That's
cute.
awesome.
So cute.
Well, John is such a good guy. Does such a great job with his podcast. So we're lucky to have you on today. And we're going to be talking about the Master Anesthesia app, which is your baby. And, first, this is Matthew Willis. I didn't even say your name. And we're going to let him tell a little bit about himself, and then we'll kind of get started talking about the app. So, Matthew, tell us a little bit about your background and how you became a CRNA and kind of where you are and what's going on in your life.
You bet. Thanks for having me on your show today. I am, first and foremost, a proud husband and father in that order. I've been now married for about 8 years, and I have 4 children. Those 5 are the biggest in my life, and I spend a lot of time working on these things in their absence. So, my thanks goes out to them for allowing me to do that. I grew up in Southeast Idaho. I graduated from high school in 1999 and spent pretty much the best 2 years of my life at that point on a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Between about 2002 and 2011, I attended what they called the School of Hard Knocks. Got me a double PhD in that one, and decided that wasn't the life for me. So I decided to go back to school and went and got my bachelor's in nursing in 2014. I worked in an ICU right out of school for roughly a year and a half and landed in CRNA school in 2016. it was the goal from the beginning, anesthesia was. So I made pretty short work of it. That short work proved to make CRNA school actually really, really difficult. But I graduated with my doctorate in 2019, and since then I've worked as a CRNA here in Iowa, developing this application and working.
Yeah, great. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the premise behind the application and kind of what it does for our listeners who hadn't heard of it?
Yeah, sure. So the primary premise is just finding answers in the clinical setting. Doing that is sometimes really difficult. Most of the written resources out there are really, really verbose. We need what we need very quickly in that setting, and all too often, we don't find the answers quickly enough. And so we naturally kind of seek those answers sometimes from fellow anesthesia providers, but sometimes they're not available. They're doing their own. They're in their own cases. And so the Master Anesthesia application was really designed from the ground up to get those answers, between about 3 and 5 minutes of looking for them.
That's really helpful, but I agree. Whenever you need the answers, you need them quickly.
That's right.
So what led up to you thinking, hey, I need to develop an app? And when did this process start for you?
Sure. So I was in anesthesia school, and I found that as I went to my clinical settings, everybody seemed to have a different answer on a particular subject. I would go in feeling completely prepared, and by midday, I'd be completely derailed from what I thought was the right answer. And sometimes the provider was absolutely right, and sometimes they were running off old research or methods that had since been updated. And then at other times, they were just running completely on personal experience and pretty much turn their shoulder to what the textbook was saying, which is totally fine. And in fact, that clinical experience is really valuable, right? I mean, it's one of the 3 legs of the evidence-based practice, the clinical expertise portion of that. So that was a big part of the reason that I created an app with the option to contribute. So we'll get into this maybe a little bit later, but inside of the Master Anesthesia application, you can contribute your own expertise in any particular post that's there. So in any case, I felt that it would be great to have a resource that compiled the answers, both answers found in the textbook and answers that were found by experience, all in one place, and with the option to be challenged, those answers. That seemed like a pretty solid way to not only have an app with answers, but also an app that stayed current with the best practices.
So whenever you started putting it together, you actually use evidence-based literature to start putting it together. How many people challenge what you've got in the app? That's interesting.
It doesn't happen too often. I mean, most of the stuff that I have, especially on the condition side, we'll talk about the different tabs in the app, what's in the app. But there's a tab called conditions, and that's pretty much straight out of the textbook. There's quite a few conditions in there that kind of tell you how to approach a specific disease or disease process. And that's all of those are pulled out of textbooks. So it's very rare to get a challenge in that. The challenges that I get are most often in the surgeries. So there's folks out there that would say, well, this is the best approach to take for this surgery. And then there's other folks that'll say, well, this one's the best, or, this one should probably have a little bit higher blood loss risk, associated with it, because I've had patients, really bleed in this particular surgery. Things like that come up fairly often. So I go in and we challenge back and forth for a little while until we come to a head of what's appropriate to put in the app.
So did you start this while you were in school and use it as part of your project, let's say, or did you? Yeah, so
it's kind of funny how this all worked. So I really enjoy the process of developing applications. At that time, I was developing, in fact, in my undergraduate, I developed an application that found textbooks for students at the lowest price across the internet, and with the option to kind of exchange those. But we're not talking about that today. Anyway, I just really enjoyed the process of creating apps. So I started, just for my own giggles, I guess, started kind of compiling these answers into a web app. And when I'd gotten through probably 2/3 of my doctorate project, which at the time was the doctorate project was using normal saline as actually a light local anesthetic. That was my original doctorate project. I approached my professor at the time, and she had gotten word that I was kind of developing this thing, and she said, "No, you need to make that your project." And I was actually really excited about that at first, because I had already developed the application, right? I figured my doctorate project was all but done. So
little did you know this was going to be a lifelong project.
Exactly. Well, a lifelong project. Not only that, but I had to start over from square one. I basically completed 2 doctorate projects in school by the time I was said and done. And I was really excited at the beginning, because I thought it was, if I could just switch it over and make that my doctorate project, well, I'm done, right? No, didn't turn out that way. So.
It's not the way it works, is it?
No. So anyway, it was a good thing. I got in and did a lot of research on the answers that people find in the clinical setting and the answers that they don't find in the clinical setting. And all of that really gave a good groundwork for developing this app.
And you actually wrote the code for the app, which is
correct.
And where did you learn how to do this?
Yeah, so I'm really geeky that way. I really enjoy code. I started picking it up back in, I want to say 2008, 2009, and since that time I've at the time there wasn't a whole lot of YouTube or really very many resources at all except books to really pick up web development. So I started picking up books as a hobby and just learning how to do it, and then that branched into other languages. And then when I found out, this Master Anesthesia, it started as a web application. It's still out there. It's masteranesthesia.com. And one of the big complaints that I had when I was doing my research was that they don't have internet in the OR. Some of these places, they don't have internet in the OR. Mm-hmm. And so I figured that a mobile application would be far more useful in that setting. So I began the process of learning how to code for mobile applications. So, and that's been the story since, is I've just developed this thing one step at a time.
It's interesting to me because the other part of this is that you're not charging for this. Right. This is a free app. You're doing this as a labor of love to give back. And now is it FOAM is free, open access? What's the M?
Free open access medical education. So sometimes they'll call it medication or medication. Medication.
Okay. All right. I think John Lawrence, when we had him on, he talked about this. Mm-hmm. So
yes.
And that's where I remember the acronym. But talk a little bit more about FOAM and why do all this work and give it away?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start kind of on the principles of FOAM. It's something of a movement to utilize our latest technologies to provide a free and open access medical education. It's all designed to create a quote unquote better world. In essence, the more available the information is, the better we're able to make decisions we need to in the short time frames that we have to make them. So it's kind of a movement to keep this information out there and free, so that we can access that when we need to. Where sometimes I guess the financial constraints or the financial hesitation to buy an app might down the road lead to somebody making a mistake or not having the answers that they need to right away. So Twitter was actually one of the very first technologies to be utilized for FOAM. And I found it really interesting when I researched this, the reason for that. Can you guys guess what that might be? It's actually one of the primary reasons I developed the app.
I'm not sure.
I know I shouldn't be asking the questions.
You kind of threw us for a loop there. I don't know, misinformation maybe? I don't know.
Okay.
You're talking about Twitter. There's a lot of misinformation there. So
Yeah, for sure. And in fact, that was one of the things that was said in that research. But one of the primary reasons was because that platform requires the answer to be less than 140 characters. So that means no more $200 words and lengthy explanations. It forces them to get to the point, which has been the goal of Master Anesthesia from the beginning. Even before I knew anything about foam, I was loathing the 20-page responses to the questions that I was trying to ask. So I dare say that mine is one of the first, if not the first, application in anesthesia that's gone on the principles of foam.
As a CRNA, you spend years preparing yourself for this career, so we don't want to see you lose out on any of the income you've worked so hard to earn. The best way to protect yourself and give you the confidence that a major life event won't disrupt your financial future is through disability insurance. We've known disability income specialist Robert Smith for many years and have seen the work he's done with nearly 2,000 CRNAs over multiple decades. He can help identify any gaps in your existing coverage and fill those gaps by finding the best value on a policy. Contact Robert and let him know you heard about him on our podcast. Send him an email at rsmithjr@financialguide.com. That's rsmithjr@financialguide.com. Or call him at 504-394-6557. Protect your greatest asset as a CRNA, yourself and your ability to earn a living by adding disability insurance to your financial plan.
Talk to us about the app. Tell us, kind of walk us through it. What is it like? And I know you mentioned tabs a few minutes ago.
But, sure.
Kind of tell us a little bit about it.
Did you want me to expound a little bit on, why I'm doing it for free?
Yeah, tell us why. I mean, I thought it was just for the greater good.
The money guy's not real sure about this, but
yeah,
right. So that's that's actually considered one of the weaknesses of foam is that that people are kind of doing this for free, and so it kind of limits the amount of information that they can give out of the bottom of their heart, because it's not only giving information, it's the process of disseminating that information. In my case, coding a full-blown app to make it available. So, and I personally, like I said, I have 3 kids that are under 5, and they're being taken care of by their angel mother while I'm clicking away in the office, So it's a difficult principle to get on board with. However, there are opportunities associated with this foam principle. I'm in the process right now of creating an optional paid service for those of the profession of anesthesia, which will fund the Master Anesthesia project, and it'll help it grow for a lot more than what I'm capable of doing by myself. So this is kind of opening an audience or an opportunity that way to not only provide another service to the audience, but also to fund it so that we can get more posts in there, more participation, more awareness of the Master Anesthesia application. And really the neat thing about foam is that it also provides the opportunities to speak with people like yourself, to get on and kind of share what we've been doing, and really there's no better feeling than being able to create content that is actively helping thousands of people every day, and really both practitioners in the first hand and patients on the second hand. I guess probably patients on the first hand, really, when it comes right down to it. But yeah, but it's a rewarding thing to do for sure.
Well, and we know that to a certain extent because we don't get paid to do this, do we, Sharon? I mean, we're here on a Saturday. We'll be here all day long, and we put a lot of time and effort into this show, and we're really doing it for the greater good. So I do understand that. I do have one question for you, Matthew. So could I take your app and now go give anesthesia?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right. Okay. All right.
It's a good app. But
I don't know if you've gotten into the app, but it has you basically there's a disclaimer to it that really the app does not replace solid education. Okay. You're not going to be able to just grab this thing and go do anesthesia.
Okay.
So
it will tell you the best approach, but it's not going to tell you how to intubate and give you all the practice you need to do it.
You just jam that tube in there,
Yeah,
right? I mean, this is
go.
good.
That's
I got
right.
it.
So you talked about being in your office, banging out code. How long I have no concept or how long it takes. Can you kind of put it in an understandable context for us dummies in code development?
Well, sure. So I don't know how to say what the average is, but when I'm doing a post on, let's say, myasthenia gravis or one of these other conditions, it takes the time, first of all, to sit down and write out the points that I would like to know, me specifically, in the clinical setting. So if I was there in the clinical setting and I needed to know right now what I've got to know right now, it's a filtering process of that information. So I try to take and filter that down to what's pertinent in the clinical, environment. That takes, at minimum, I would say, a couple hours. Okay. I mean, at minimum. There's sometimes I'm reading several studies. I try to read several studies, so I'm not missing things. Then you've got the code part of it. Now, I don't even know how to tell you how long that's taken, because that has been, well, that by experience alone, just getting to the point where I'm at now, where I can code those things. I mean, it's thousands and thousands of hours figuring out how to do this. In terms of actually developing or putting that information into the app, it's a fairly streamlined process now. What I do is I enter it in on the Master Anesthesia web application, and then I access my own API to pull that into the application. So it's fairly quick now. It's fairly quick in terms of making a post. But again, finding the time to do that between developing different parts of the software. Like, for example, we're adding more parts that we'll talk about here shortly. We're adding more parts to the calculator. Those all, I mean, I just spent 3 days of work adding one piece of that in. So, I mean, let's say definitely 8-hour days. So I would say about 24 hours roughly of work, just adding that piece of software. And then that's in addition to trying to add some of these other things like case tips and the condition posts. So it's a lot.
So how many hours or days, or do you have any idea cumulatively how much time this has taken you? I mean, give or take.
No, I wish I did, honestly. So when I was working full time, I would usually get up in the morning at about 4 o'clock, and I would code until about 5:30 and 6, and then I'd run and do my cases. Sometimes we were off early. If I was off earlier than 3 o'clock or earlier than 5 o'clock, really, I would come home and I would code until 5 o'clock, and then have dinner with the family, go through the routine of washing dishes and helping out at home, and then go to bed and start over the next day. So every ounce of spare time was spent doing this.
Wow.
Really.
Wow. And you must have a very supportive wife with 4 kids.
Oh man, super supportive. Yeah, she's been wonderful.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done that without her. And I've been doing that since really 2018.
Oh my gosh. That's a lot of hours.
That could have been, I was thinking that could have been a great COVID project or something, but you've been doing it even pre-COVID. So,
well, one of the pitches that I threw at Apple when I launched this thing exactly a year ago, it was COVID. It was very COVID sensitive time. And one of the things I threw at Apple was that I was giving free medical education to COVID frontline providers.
Yeah.
And that got it pushed through a lot quicker.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, yeah. I have the app. So why don't you talk about all the different tabs and the capabilities of the app?
Sure, you bet. So there's 5 primary tabs along the bottom of the application. Once you get in there, there's the first one is surgeries. Once you get in there, the first tab is technically the home screen, but the first primary tab, that you can get into for information is the surgeries. Now, each of those surgeries is in this category it has the most common anesthetic approach. It's got your positioning, your blood loss potential, et cetera, et cetera. Along with these, you can also get case tips from both the textbooks, which I've pulled some of that out of, and also the professionals. So at the bottom of each of those posts, you'll see a contributor, if there was one, that's said something or that's brought something to my attention, and their score and whatnot, and if they've allowed it, their name and what profession of anesthesia that they're in. So So that's the first one, surgery. So you get pretty much the most valuable part of that is your case tips. And I understand you were using that, correct, Sharon?
Oh, yes, because I went back to work in a hospital after many, many years, so I was using that.
I just can't believe that you got this off of the bathroom wall and you can actually utilize it. I mean, that's pretty cool, you know? I mean, was it written at the hospital, you know, for a better anesthetic call or?
You underestimate the power of guerrilla marketing, you know?
That's it. It was so funny whenever I did text him that, and I said off the bathroom wall. He goes, "Yikes, they must have given you the wrong one. Why does this keep happening to me?"
Oh, gosh.
I liked him immediately.
That's pretty funny.
He came back. But my favorite part is the calculator.
Yes.
Talk about that, because that is an amazing thing.
Well, okay, so I appreciate it. That's actually one of the most popular, if not the most popular part of the app. I should probably move the tab over. It's the very last one. So, but it's certainly not the least. It's, like I say, I think it's the most popular. Inside of that particular tab, it's kind of hard to describe on audio, but essentially what you get is you'll drag a couple of the sliders across, and you'll immediately get drug dosing, fluids, blood calculations, local anesthetic toxicity. Everything that can be calculated is just calculated super quick. And that was one of the things that I found out as a student is most of these equations come down to height and weight, you know, right. And in the case of peds, age and weight. So in any case, you can slide that across, and you immediately on the adult side, you get ideal body weight, lean body weight, adjusted body weight, BMI, habitus, and tidal volumes. Then you can click into any one of those things that I mentioned in terms of drug dosing, fluids, blood calculations, and it'll spit out all of your numbers that you need. On the side of the pediatrics, you slide those sliders and you get age and weight. Those are the two sliders that you have. And then you'll get all the typical vitals for that age group. And you'll get all of the equipment that you need to manage the airway, which includes, you know, your whatever blade you're using, your tube size, your airway size, your LMA size, any of those things that you need to know on the fly.
We used to have to make little index cards on every single pediatric patient with all of that stuff calculated, written down. And now you just move that little slider and
it changes real time. Yep.
Yeah, it is. How hard was that to code? That sounds
awful. It was a beast. It was an absolute
awful.
Beast.
But it's amazing. It's an amazing piece. I love the drug piece that's in here too. Now I haven't looked deep enough in that. Is there something in there to calculate the local anesthetic requirements too? Is that on the calculator also?
It is. Wow. Yeah. So if you drag that across, there will be a button pop up that says local. Mm-hmm. And what's really neat about that is you choose the local anesthetics that you're dealing with, and as you drag, it'll create a draggable another draggable item there where you can just drag your numbers across. And what'll happen is it'll tell you how toxic under normal circumstances. Again, there's disclaimers there, but under normal circumstances about how toxic they are. And what's really neat is if you're wanting to know how much of the other drugs that you can get or you can give, it counts it down on the other side for you. So it'll tell you very quickly what you could give of those other drugs before they're 100% toxic.
Wow. I really think I might could do this, Sharon. You know, maybe I'm going to go practice giving an anesthetic today. You want to be my first?
You might be able to, but it'll be ugly. I will not be your first.
So what's the future for this app?
Oh man, there's so many things I'd like to do for the app. I mean, well, so let me tell you really quick. I'd like to give a quick shout out to Rob DeSenius. I hope I'm saying his name name right. He actually just submitted all of the calculations and whatnot that I needed for for an insulin calculator, and that's about to be the next big piece in this calculator. So once you click on that, it will tell you starting infusion number, what you need to start the infusion at based on their blood glucose levels, and then even a maintenance. So if you had a previous blood glucose of X and you have a current blood glucose of Y, it'll calculate how much you need to adjust that rate. It'll do it all for you. It also has a post-operative feature to it for your subcutaneous. So if you bring the patient back to the post-op and they've got a high blood sugar, you can plug in a couple of variables that apply to that particular patient, and it'll spit out how much sub-Q insulin you should give them to bring them down to normal levels. Of course, given typical bell curve situations, we can't be saying it's a perfect art, but it's based on all the research and the calculations that are out there. So that's a shout out to Rob for doing a phenomenal job that way. And like I said, that's the one that took me the last 2-3 days of work to code into the app, and they'll be there here soon.
Today's show is brought to you by the folks at CRNA Financial Planning, an independent consulting firm that offers financial planning services exclusively to CRNAs and their families. From planning for a child's future college expenses to building a predictable income stream in retirement, the firm is committed to offering you comprehensive financial services customized to fit your unique needs and objectives. If you have questions about your financial future, get them answered. Call the team at 855-304-3748. That's 855-304-3748. Or go online to crnafinancialplanning.com.
So how much do you think that it costs you out? And there's nothing that can give you back your time, but I'm sure there's been a monetary outlay for you to do this. I'm sure it's not free. Nothing's free.
Right. So, but on that note, my one of the things that I've always kind of loathed, at least when I was in school, was that I was, for every textbook and every app and everything that I got into, it was so expensive. And I always kind of felt that, man, if I knew somebody out there that was trying to get ahead and was working hard, they should have it. They should have some of those steps up. So I've worked really hard to try to keep this thing free, and it has been free. The idea down the road, like I say, is to create another service that would be optionally monetized. It'd be something that they could buy or not buy. It's never ever going to be. My plan is to never charge for this app. The nice thing about having a service that I think that this is going to be a slam dunk for a lot of folks that need it. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag too soon, but the nice thing about having that service is it will actually feed that beast. I'll be able to grow those different categories like the conditions and the case tips and all those things, and actually pay some of the anesthesia community to do that. But you're right, in terms of trying to gain that time or money back, hopefully that'll come back in maybe one of these services that I offer, which will be there soon.
Very cool. Sounds exciting.
Yeah.
And the wife will be like, yes, he's finally making some money on this thing. Yes, we're going to put those kids through school.
Maybe. We'll see.
So how can our audience or other CRNAs, how can they get involved on this with you?
So there's a couple ways. Honestly, the biggest way right now is to stay tuned to your email. If you're registered on the application, I'll be sending an email here soon to kick off some pretty big things on the rise. Make sure that Matthew at masteranesthesia.com is in your email contact list. Otherwise, your spam filters might see that coming and throw it in your spam. I would hope not. I don't know why it happens that way, but sometimes it does. So again, this thing that we're looking to do, this thing or two that we're looking to do is aimed at growing the Master Anesthesia app a lot bigger than I could alone. That whole adage of you got to do it yourself to do it right, it's not the case. I would really like to grow the app the way that I would like to see it. The other way to get involved is just just make suggestions, lend your expertise. And you can do that. You can do that in the app. There's a bubble at the top of just about every page that allows you to send me an email, and that goes directly to me. I will respond to every single one of them, and it really helps me kind of put my thumb on what the anesthesia community needs and wants. And that becomes, as those things come to the rise, those are the things I end up building into the app. So this really helps build the content for the community. If they would like to get in contact with me, you can always email me at Matthew@masteranesthesia.com. That's a good way to do it. But like I say, through the app might be easier for you. I don't know, but that's a way that you can get a hold of me anytime.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Matthew, anything else you want to add as we kind of conclude and wrap this thing up?
No, I think it's great what you guys have put together here. Is there any other questions that you have for me?
I don't think so. I mean, unless Sharon's got something brewing in that head over there, which is always the case.
So I'm sure you've got plans for the future, even more than you're probably letting out of the bag, because you don't want to commit yourself to time and the coding and maybe your wife.
Correct, and really
putting a pillow over your face at night or something. So, but
right.
I'll tell you, whenever you've got new updates for the app or something, just reach out on the cell phone number that now you know who I am texting you, and we'd love to have you back on here to let people know about your app.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Will do.
All right. Well, Matthew, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for all you're doing to help the anesthesia community out there. This is great. Even I went and looked at the stuff, and actually while you were talking, I texted it to my wife, and she sends it back. She goes, "Oh my God, cool app."
Yeah.
So
Jeremy's wife is a CRNA.
Yeah, she's a CRNA as well. So.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. So.
Well, I've been pleasantly surprised at how many people have not heard of the app at this point. If I had had a resource like this in school, I would have been blasting it from sea to shining sea. But
yeah.
It even helps seasoned CRNAs as myself.
Well, I'm so happy to hear that.
Well, again, thank you for all you're doing and supporting the community. And you gonna close?
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome.
We want to thank our listeners for listening to Beyond the Mask with Jeremy Stanley and
Sharon Pierce.
If you like our show and want to help us grow, Sharon, what's the best ways they can help us grow?
Leave us a review is the best way, but in addition, make sure that you tell all your friends and put it on social media and help us grow.
Yeah, but on the review, make sure it's positive, right? There's enough negativity in this world, right?
Absolutely.
That's right. Until next time.
It's a wrap.
Have you thought about what would happen if you weren't able to work for 2 or 3 years? On average, 25% of people will file a disability claim, and most of us aren't prepared for that loss of income. Every CRNA needs to protect their biggest asset, yourself, and your ability to earn with a disability insurance policy. We recommend contacting Robert Smith, a master disability insurance specialist with more than 30 years of experience and 1,800 CRNA clients, to find the coverage that fits you best. The best way to do that is to send him an email at rsmithjr@financialguide.com. That's rsmithjr@financialguide.com. Or call him at 504-394-6557. Beyond the Mask is made possible by the team at CRNA Financial Planning. With almost 2 decades of experience, the firm guides CRNAs through the complexities of investing and financial planning. Schedule a free consultation today by calling 855-304-3748 or go online to crnafinancialplanning.com.
Hi, this is Jackie Rolls, President of the International Federation of Nurse Anesthetists and President and founder of Our Hearts, Your Hands, a global anesthesia support community that takes donations to allow nurse anesthetists in low and middle income countries to go to educational programs, buy equipment, or textbooks. Your donations are tax deductible, and we would appreciate your support.
OSA EMR is a free anesthesia EMR developed by CRNAs that you can download and use on an iPad. Our nonprofit mission is to make sure that solo and small practice CRNAs can digitally record their anesthetics. To learn more, visit osaemr.com to download and consider donating to our cause. Remember, for CRNAs, data is destiny.
Be sure to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you like to listen to shows. Also be sure to check out BeyondTheMaskPodcast.com. Each episode is posted there with a corresponding blog post, and we timestamp important parts of the episode to help you quickly get to the content you're looking for. Also check out the special series section on the site. You can follow along and catch up on the CRNA History Series, episodes specifically about political conversations in the industry, or try the CRNA Personal Finance Series. It's all on BeyondTheMaskPodcast.com. And if you have a question for the show or want to be a guest, or even suggest a particular topic, fill out the contact form on the site or send an email directly to us at info@BeyondTheMaskPodcast.com. And lastly, let's take the conversation social. Check out our Beyond the Mask podcast Facebook page and Facebook group.